We're recording. The following is the agenda for the regular council meeting of the Borough of Pompton Lakes Mayor and Council Municipal Corporation in the County of Passaic. The meeting will begin at 7:30 p.m. on April 26, 2023 in the Municipal Building, 25 Lenox Avenue, Pompton Lakes. Consistent with the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Act, the meeting will be opened for public comments and shall be in accordance with the terms and conditions of the borough's municipal code and bylaws.
Thank you. Please stand for a flag salute. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please bless this mayor and council as they deliberate on the best of Pompton Lakes. In conformance with the Open Public Meeting Law, Public Law 1975, Chapter 231, adequate notice of this meeting setting forth the time, date, place, and purpose of this regular meeting through notice posted in the bulletin board of the municipal building, mailed or have requested and paid for same, and published in the Suburban Trends. Roll call, please.
Mayor Sarah.
Here.
Council President Polidori. Here. Councilman Beggs excused.
Yes.
Councilman Cruz is excused.
Yes.
Councilman DeLine.
Here.
Councilwoman Kent. Here. Councilman Bennett.
Here.
With us this evening is our Borough Attorney Mark Semeraro and our Borough Administrator Paul Cutler.
Okay, thank you. So first, I'd just like to start with an update on our good friend, Councilman Begg. He has been moved to a different hospital for some rehab. He is out of bed and doing better, and was out walking around and moving around today. He hopes to be somehow connected to us at the next council meeting, so hopefully we'll either hear from him or see him. I don't know which other, but good to hear that. And our prayers are out for Councilman Cruz, whose father had some issues today, and that's why he's not here. My presentations. I will start, first of all, I want to thank Liz and Kathy for putting on an outstanding CTO day. Really, the kids did a great job in presenting some issues they wanted. They were cool, calm, and collective. Nobody was nervous to speak up here. They all knew what they were saying and how they said it. And to coordinate all those kids and all these department heads takes a lot of time. So I want to thank you guys again for doing that. You put a lot of time and energy in it. And also Mr. Patrick from the high school, he puts a lot of time in. I have a proclamation for, I got it here.
Okay.
For Arbor Day. Whereas J. Sterling Morton proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set for the planting of trees called Arbor Day, was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska. Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation and the world. Trees can reduce the erosion of precious topsoil by wind and water, lower our heating and cooling costs, moderate the temperature, clean the air, produce oxygen, and provide habitat for wildlife. Trees are a renewable resource, giving us paper, wood for our homes, fuel for our fires, and countless other wood projects. Now, therefore, I, Michael Sarah, Mayor of the Borough of Pompton Lakes in the County of Passaic, New Jersey, do hereby proclaim April 26, 2023 as Pompton Lakes Recognition of Arbor Day. And I urge all citizens to celebrate Arbor Day and to support their efforts for our trees and our woodlands. With this, which we know is Arbor Day, but we have one of the best shade tree commissions around, I think. The members put a lot of time and energy into what they do. That all plays into that, which is going to play into my next little letter that we got also in reference to Arbor Day. I'm thrilled to congratulate Pompton Lakes on earning recognition as a 2022 Tree City USA. This is the 10th year we've gotten this. There's a lot of work involved. Not every town can. 15th. It's 15 years we've gotten this. Not every town gets this, and there's a lot of time and energy to putting it in. So we have a little plaque, and it's on the board that proudly displays. So again, I want to thank the Shade Tree Commission for taking care of that and doing all of that. Okay, so let's start now with our resolutions, Liz, whenever you're ready.
Okay, this is the introduction into the Special Improvement District Budget 2023, Resolution 23-115. Resolution ratifying, introducing, and authorizing the estimated annual budget in the amount of $486,140 for the calendar year 2023, January through December 2023, of the Pompton Lakes Community Partnership Business Improvement District.
Okay, for the audience, just for the next two, these are introductions. This is how we introduce something. The next meeting would be where the public would have a chance to discuss any concerns or questions about the budget or these two budgets. Of course, in open session, if you have a question, you can step up and ask in open session, and we'll try to ask that. Okay, motion to introduce the special improvement district budget in the amount of $486,000, $140,000 for the year 2023.
Motion.
Councilman Bennett.
Second.
Council President Polidori. Roll call, please.
Councilman Deline.
Yes.
Councilwoman Ken.
Yes.
Councilwoman Polidori.
Yes.
Councilman Bennett.
Yes.
Okay, this ordinance will be advertised, and the public hearing will be held on Wednesday, May 24th at 7:30. The borough, there's a copy available in the Borough Clerk's office during the hours between 9 and 4.
Okay.
Introduction of the municipal budget 2023, ordinance 23-15, calendar year 2023 ordinance to exceed the municipal budget appropriation limits and to establish a cap bank.
Okay, again, the same thing, but I'm just going to give a little update. There was a lot of time and energy spent on working on our regular tax budget this year. Unfortunately, due to increases that are out of our control, it was over $700,000 just in pension and healthcare costs. So, that's something we don't get subsidized back from the state with, and it's a large amount of money to make up in a small town. So with that, we're going to have a property tax increase of about $53 on the average assessed house, which is under 2%, which is where we've been in the last 6 years. You can't go with a 0% increase, because if you go with a 0% increase, it catches up to you all at one time in a lump sum. So I got to thank the whole council up here, the finance committee for work, and of course Paula for putting together, it's their second year coming in and doing this budget and putting it together. There's a lot of moving parts when it comes to this budget, and there'll be more discussion in the next meeting. But I want to thank our administrator for really spending a lot of time and energy. I'm going to let her say a couple words before we, got anything you want to say?
Sure, Mayor. Like the mayor said, we were faced with the challenges of huge increases in debt service, pension payments, health insurance, fuel costs. These are things that we cannot control. We need to continue to run our town, and those are things we need to have in place. We did receive American Rescue money to help us relieve that, but we have to be careful, and I'm thankful that up here they've been very fiscally responsible with the fact that we are not leaning on that money, because that money goes away after next year. So we need to think about this budget is to look at this borough from now and 5 years from now. So I'd like to thank the mayor and council for their support. And, especially since I walked into a municipality being financially responsible, we were able to use some of the surplus or savings that the town has created to help us through these difficult financial times, because you're all going through it personally as well. And that's something that, I'm thankful for, that money was available to not increase the amount to be raised by taxation, therefore putting an additional tax burden on all of you. So it really was a lot of going back and forth, and in the end, this is a very fiscally responsible budget, and it fits within all of the laws. So, thank you, Mayor. So we had some challenges, and we're planning for the challenges next year, because these costs aren't going to go away, but we're going to look at some other opportunities to bring down some of these costs, particularly healthcare. We can go out to, a health insurance fund, or get our own broker to get us self-insured, and that might help us bring down some of those costs as well. We won't rely on the state, or, we're at the mercy of the state of New Jersey for those costs. Just to give you an idea, family coverage for a family is $38,000, the premium that this borough pays for an employee of family coverage. So those are big, big numbers that we have to deal with here. But that's about it now, and I'll have more specifics where we were, projections, and where we were before, and where we're going at the public hearing portion of our budget.
Thank you. I'll let the financial chair, Councilman Bennett, you have anything you want to add?
Nothing to add, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, and the last thing I'll add before we go to the vote, this is not unique to us. If you speak to other towns, they're going through the same situation. We've talked, and I know our administrator has talked to a lot of other towns. It's a lot worse in some towns where, this is a tough time because the state of New Jersey has caused us some issues. Now, the state came in and helped the schools a little bit with more aid to the schools in some cases, but they didn't come and help the towns. And we haven't gotten an increase in aid in, 15 years maybe. So with that, motion to approve ordinance 2315 for introduction.
Motion.
Councilman Bennett.
Second?
Councilwoman Kent. Roll call, please.
Councilman Dewan.
Yes.
Councilwoman Kent.
Yes.
Councilwoman Polidori.
Yes.
Councilman Bennett.
Yes.
Resolution 23-116, authorizing the introduction of the 23 municipal budget.
Motion to introduce the 23 municipal budget of the Borough of Pompton Lakes. Can I have a second?
Motion. Second.
Councilman Bennett. Roll call, please.
I didn't hear who made the motion.
What's that?
Who made the motion?
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I get a motion? No, I need a motion. Can I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
I'll
All right,
second.
motion. All right, Councilwoman Kent is the second.
Councilman Dewan.
Yes.
Councilwoman Kent.
Yes.
Councilwoman Polidori.
Yes.
Councilman Bennett.
Yes.
This also will be advertised, and the meeting will be held on May 24th at 7:30 PM. Copies of the budget are available in the clerk's office between 9 and 4.
Okay. With that, could I have a motion to open the meeting for public comments?
So moved.
Councilman Devine,
Second.
Councilman Bennett, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? Anyone from the public like to address? Please step up.
Good evening. El Evangelista, Ringwood Court, Pompton Lakes. I was reluctant to get up here this evening to speak about this, but I just can't pass the opportunity. As many of you probably know, there was a video posted on social media regarding an employee of this borough. Okay, I found it to be insulting, found it to be demeaning. I do not know the gentleman that posted it, but what I do know is it brought out a lot for the public to see firsthand. I would like to know from this borough where the accountability is. Where does the accountability begin and where does it stop? When we have an employee that can act like that, give out erroneous information, apparently. I'd like to know, who evaluates that party?
I need more explanation of what you're talking about. I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know what you're talking
No,
about.
there's a video posted to YouTube of a resident that videotaped an intersection,
Oh, okay,
okay, Lakeside in a van.
okay,
And then he was met with the opportunity to meet with our police chief.
okay. Now I
And
know
I'll
what you're
let the
talking
video speak for itself.
about. Right, so I'm not going to address the video because I had nothing to do with the video.
Maybe, before anyone
we have-
comments on it, if we're talking about the performance of any employee's job, I would caution you not to engage in dialogue, because there are confidentiality issues that relate to personnel issues. I would like an opportunity as the borough attorney to look into whatever occurred and obviously update the board, but please refrain from any comment regarding any personnel issue, as there are a number of reasons why that cannot be discussed by the governing body.
And I understand that from my perspective as well. But it's out in the clear. And I just want to know where accountability is for employees in this borough. Who takes people to task if things are not...
Well, the administrator has say, and depending on where that department is, it might fall in other people's hands, and I'd have to do more research with our attorney to figure out where that falls. But at this moment. And
But
maybe-
the administrator's the individual that's primarily responsible
Okay,
for discipline as well as a department head,
so,
depending on what
okay.
the situation.
You know, in this case, the police officers that were there, and he even commended them, they were exceptional. They treated him with the utmost respect, they answered his questions, they engaged in conversation with him. Everything that Borough of Pompton Lakes is all about. Okay, it's about respect, it's about engaging the public, it's about community service, community policing. I didn't see too much that day across the board. However, I have some questions I would like answered. Who evaluates, I know who evaluates the police officers, who evaluates the police chief?
Again, we can't talk about anybody specific,
I'm
correct?
not talking about him, we're talking about a position. Who evaluates the police chief?
The department heads are answerable to the governing body.
Okay, so who evaluates them? I hope there's an evaluation process. I mean, my entire career, I was evaluated yearly. Okay, my raises were dependent on my evaluation. Okay?
I can't.
Suggestions for improvement were.
Right, so personnel-wise, it falls under the administrator.
Okay.
As you know, our police department is separate a little bit from the borough, and there's certain regulations that
I
we'd have to
understand that.
follow that would fall under the
That's what I'm
police
asking.
department. Right, but at the end of the day, she would bring it to the council's attention if something was sticking out to her, and then we would hear it discussed.
So if there were a citizen's complaint about any member of the
They
police.
could go to her or myself, yes.
Okay, and that goes to IA.
Yes.
In the police
If it-
department.
I mean, if it carries.
But obviously,
It
the
depends on
chief,
what it is.
Right, depends what it is.
the position of the chief, the IA officer is under the chief.
Well, we're not there yet,
In
and we're
that
not discussing
situation-
that, so I can't bring that up
Okay.
right now.
So I would like to know, in that situation, talking about any chief, anywhere in the state of New Jersey,
It depends
where
on
does that complaint go?
that this is not a conversation for a council meeting, but generally speaking, if it is an internal affairs related issue that deals with the office of chief of police,
Mhm.
the prosecutor's office gets involved.
Okay,
If it has to do with something that would ordinarily fall within the realm of internal affairs.
okay,
If it's a different type of complaint and it's something that's purely administrative, then the appointing authority would play a role and the manager would play a role. But I do not want to have anybody up here discuss
no, I understand that,
anybody that happens to hold that office or any other
I
office.
thoroughly understand that. Along the same lines, of respect, right, there's a carpet in the police station lobby. It says integrity, respect, and service. Personally, from me viewing that video that day, I just want to say that I did not see a lot of integrity or respect. Right, that's just my personal feeling as a lifelong member of this community. I expect better, personally, and I'm sure the community does as well. Is there going to be an apology? Is there going to be a correction? I mean, the
So
police
you're
department
jumping way
has a
ahead. You know,
they
I don't know
have
if
a
everybody's
Facebook
seen the
page.
videos. You know, a lot of people don't know
All
what
right,
you're
let's,
talking about.
let's just do a supposition here. If erroneous information is given out by any department head, should there be a correction to the general public?
People make mistakes, they make mistakes all the
Mayor,
time.
I
Sure.
don't even agree
All right.
with a conversation of this nature in
Let
public.
me throw that out there just as food for thought. Okay, should there be a correction? Should there be an apology? Should there be any other kind of intervention? I don't know. That's why I'm bringing it up here. I know we can't talk about personnel. Very aware of that and very sensitive to that. That was my career, okay? I had to be very careful of that. But, you know, the bottom line is it happened and it's out there. Okay? I don't want to say, because I know you have issues with it, with people saying, well, people came to me and said. People came to me and said. I got calls from a couple of friends that live out of state. that-
So I think the best method would be for you to contact your concerns with our administrator and explain your concerns to her, and then she can do some research, talking with our attorney and myself, and then it would come to the council, if it goes to that
I don't
level.
intend to go anywhere with this. I'm throwing questions out that I would like an answer.
Well, we don't have answers for you right now, that's the
Right,
problem.
I understand, but I'm just throwing that out. as-
And there's not going to be a discussion regarding a particular incident publicly as it relates to the performance of a particular employee. That's
Okay, I
a
understand.
confidential issue, it's a personnel issue. I don't mean this disrespectfully, but I would, and I'm speaking in this format again to alert the governing body not to respond, and I want you, Mr. Evangelista, to understand that the governing body is not responding
I
as a
understand.
matter
I
of
understand.
my advice,
Yes.
which is consistent with the
understand.
law. But you're asking a number of rhetorical questions, and someone that may be viewing this may be thinking that answers to your questions are being evaded for one reason or
No,
another.
no, no.
The reality is that it is unequivocally a confidential personnel matter, and as a matter of law, they can't discuss it. And
Right,
I'm
and
instructing
they have to be
my-
notified if there is discussion, but I understand that. I'm not trying to.
No, and not only just for you, for the public at large, but I
Exactly.
know there's
Okay.
members of the gallery and people watching online.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public like to address? Is that a yes?
Yes.
Okay.
Gardner Summit, 147 Summit Avenue, Pompton Lakes. I thought he was going to talk about the videotape of the Tesla scratching.
That's what I thought it was, but okay, we'll
I
go.
was a bit confused. There's a lot of videotape out there. So I have a question for the council or the mayor. What is the limit for the gross weight vehicle of a commercial property parked in a residential zone?
Again, I'm talking off the top of my head, I can't hold it true, but I think it's 10,000 pounds. but
Correct.
I'm not sure.
And do you know how many commercial vehicles you can have parked in a residential zone?
I do not.
One.
Okay, I was-
So here's a picture. Who do I give this to? Okay. Here, this is 80 Summit Avenue. Okay, that vehicle, if you actually have to look at it carefully, on the door it says 16,000 pounds gross weight vehicle. That's been sitting there for weeks at a time. There are four commercial commercial vehicles parked on this property. I think the owner of the property is using it for employee housing, but he has a series of trucks parked there. And that's what makes a residential neighborhood look like crap.
I agree with you.
Now, I understand this town has got a lot of tradesmen and they bring their vehicle home. But when you bring a giant vehicle and you leave it parked on the side of the road at all hours, that thing hasn't moved in days, and you leave it there all the time, it's a blight on the neighborhood. It's like parking on lawns, which I see all over town, which is not permissible too, under the ordinance. So I think we need a little enforcement here.
So let me explain how first of all, I do agree with everything you just said, but enforcement in this town, we have a part-time enforcement agent. The way that works is, someone calls him and says, look, I have an issue, could you go please check this? He goes and checks it. We do not have someone driving around looking for enforcement issues. So my suggestion to you would be, just make a nice call to the building department, send that picture even, and say, look, could you go look into it? And they will.
Yeah, I don't want to drive around and look for problems.
And-
This is a problem that I see every day. I think two of the councilmen probably drive by it all the time. You know, I was trying to figure out how big the car was, how big the truck was, until I saw on the side of the door, it said 16,000 pounds gross vehicle weight. This guy's got to move it.
I agree, but what I'm trying
And
to
he's
make
got to
is,
stop, and I don't know how many, I think there are rules about how many unrelated people you have living in a dwelling.
very difficult to prove, yeah.
Okay, well, there's a lot of them there, and I don't really care about that much. People gotta live someplace. If they wanna live in a nice house, great. But they can't turn a residential neighborhood into a commercial operation.
And because you've brought it to our attention, I will reach out to our building department tomorrow and let him know that, and then they will be looking into it, and I'm sure they will take action if it is breaking any law.
Thank you.
They will take a look at that.
Now, let's go back to the Tesla video, since I have a vested interest.
Okay?
Did they catch the guy? Did they get him, was he
I
arrested?
can't speak about a video, I agree it was horrible what was there,
So
but
has anybody been arrested for
I don't know the answer
scratching
to
a car?
that. I don't know that.
Okay.
Now, I've seen comments we're talking about social media, so I can't believe everything that's on social media, that somebody identified him with a name, but.
Oh, a whole bunch, yeah, it was
Yeah,
all over. It's
But
great.
it's not us, we are not looking into it unless a police report was filed, which I don't know.
A police report was filed,
Then-
apparently,
all
that's
right,
what News
then-
12 reported.
Well, I don't know that for sure, but if that is true, then the police would be looking into it.
How do I find out if anybody was arrested?
You could ask the police department,
Okay, and they will answer? Or do I have to file a FOIA request?
you'd have to file an
Oh,
open.
okay. Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public like to address? Any more videos we want to see? Step up. You.
Randy Hinton, 443 Montclair Avenue. Just coming back over questions I had previous council meeting for the Shade Tree Commission. One on the curb ordinance, anything?
We're
And,
going to take it on a case-by-case basis. That's how we're going to handle it.
how can you do that?
We're going to send people out, our DPW, and they're going to take a look and decide if it's something we need to address or not address.
That's still kind of very difficult to do. I mean, the
what we're gonna
residents are going to see that in a different light as to who I know or who I don't know, or who I'm friends with or not friends with. They're going to feel that way. So,
It's the way we've decided to address it.
okay. Clary Hugh Lane vacated. Any,
We're still working on that, correct?
update on?
Yeah, I'm unable to locate any documentation right now that the borough officially vacated. It looks as though where it was left off, residents were responsible to survey the properties to delineate their property boundaries with regard to taking over a portion of this Clary Hugh Lane. I haven't found anything, and as a matter of fact, I was going to talk to you, Mark, about that when I get a chance. I don't know, your name was mentioned in one of the emails I was looking at.
Okay.
Probably when you first came on.
Mr. Hinton made reference to, I didn't recall that I was going to do anything on this. If I
No,
missed
I was
something,
going
I
to look into
apologize.
it, and a resident actually reached out to me and sent me a letter that my predecessor had sent him with regard to the vacation that the town had done extensive title search on the property. I don't know where any of that information is. I haven't found it.
So it's a work in progress. We're
So
still working on
is.
it.
What is it that we're trying to find out
We're
exactly?
trying to delineate the portion of Clara Hugh Lane that has been vacated by the borough to determine the responsibility of trees that have been planted by Shade Tree.
It's a
in the
it's a
right-of-way.
paper road. It's not a real road.
Okay, so, at this juncture, we haven't found
I'm gonna have to see where, because this gentleman,
the ordinance
a
doing it.
nice resident sent me the letter and spent a lot of time talking to me on the phone with regard to his perspective of history of this. And he was told by my predecessor that through extensive title searching, that the residents in this particular area would have to resurvey their property to delineate their property boundaries. And I'm not too sure how that comes into play in terms of delineating where on
So let me give you a little
Clear
history.
have we
I think what they're trying to determine, going back to that, is the last person decided that each resident had to meet their meets and bounds of their property, and then we can decide where our property comes up to that property. And then there was talk about just giving them the property that touches their property, but that was never done by resolution, so that was never officially done,
So a vacation never occurred?
that I know of, no. Maybe,
Yeah, so I didn't understand the purpose of.
So ordinarily, if you're considering vacating property, you need to have a meets and bounds of the paper road that you're going to vacate, and it generally is vacated center line, and then it goes half to each adjoining property. That's kind of what we're doing with respect to the
County.
Passaic County Affordable Housing Corporation's property. That's why we need the meets and bounds done. So the meets and bounds would have to be shot. If there's an issue about it being previously vacated and not knowing, well, there has to be an ordinance on the books, we have to be able to find it. And if we knew what year that was, then we could kind of go through that year's.
it was a couple of years ago, what, 3, 4 years ago?
Recently.
No, it wasn't. It
I
was
have
couple
a
years ago.
file in the office for Clearview, and I know there were some minutes, so I can pull all of that.
Could you pull and then I'll take a look and
Yes,
see what
I will.
happened?
And I can go
Yeah,
back
all
and
right, we'll
search.
talk about that.
Didn't we pull the residents in at one point?
Yes, you had a special.
We had a special meeting
All
with
the way
the
back when
residents.
Vito was here.
Yes, it was a long time ago.
Yes, very.
But,
So I think I saw those notes, but in this letter, it says title searches were done. Does anyone recall that?
I don't have that communication. It may have been between Kevin and,
Bob Boostyke indicated that there was some title work done, and he referenced to a title company, but I just don't recall what the significance of any of that was. I think
Because
that I
that's
had
kind
to
of
ask.
meaningless to the vacation of the road. I don't know what, isn't it or no?
I'm going to say 10 years ago, we had a meeting with all the residents on that road to discuss what we wanted to do with the property. Did they want to take some of it? Did we want to give it to them? Were they going to buy it? And there was a lot of communication. Of course, everybody didn't agree with what they wanted. And then from there, I don't know how it progressed.
and they had another meeting. It was with Mayor Cole.
It was Mayor Cole, yes. Yeah.
When Mayor Cole was,
Right.
and then they had another meeting.
Have a full phone, I'll take a look.
Yeah, we'll take a look.
It's not going to be very descriptive. All I really have is one letter that my predecessor wrote to this resident saying, we have done an extensive title search and it is now each property owner's responsibility to get a survey of their property.
All right, so we'll get together with your file, and you guys can talk, and we'll get some more.
We went all the way back to 206, and we couldn't find an ordinance, but I can go further. I don't think there was.
No, it wasn't
one
before
prior.
2000.
Let me get the
I could
information.
speculate, but,
What-
and that may make sense to some degree. Let's look at it together and we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Okay, so,
I mean, because still, the resident may not want the piece.
exactly, so,
They say, I don't want it.
right. And that was part of the problem when we had the meeting, actually. Some did, some didn't.
Right,
They weren't in agreement.
They weren't in agreement, yes.
right. Well, they're not required to
No.
take it, even if you wanted to vacate.
So we'll follow up on that.
Okay. The Board of Ed lease, I got a phone call from Liz, who Paula reviewed the lease for Hirschfield Park as far as what the Board of Ed actually leases. They lease the fields from wood line to wood line, or do they lease from property line to property line? It was a discussion that
I don't know the
we
answer
needed
to that.
I needed to know, and the head of maintenance for Board of Education needed to know, as who was responsible for the trees. Board of Ed took care of the problem, but we just wanted distinct clarification as to
We'll have to talk to the
What's
Board of
in
Ed.
the
If
lease?
you don't get involved. So the lease delineates nothing more than the boundaries on the tax assessment map. We don't lease into the woods. And the question was, the high school is storing their equipment in the woods, what if trees fall on it and whatnot? Are we responsible to cut down? And what I said to Randy is we make every effort to ensure that the areas that are publicly used are safe. Woods are woods.
I'm okay with
We make sure
that.
our trails are safe, we make sure our right-of-ways are safe, woods are woods.
And if they're storing
And if the
equipment,
school is storing
it's on
their
them.
property in the woods, then they're responsible for doing so.
I would think so too, yes.
And that's why the Board of Ed did take care of the problem, and did take the dead trees down,
Okay.
but we just wanted a little clarification.
I'm gonna agree with you.
Who was totally
Line to
responsible
line, we're
for
not
that.
taking care of the woods.
Okay. Mr. Mayor, I know previously you had worked with the residents of Broad Street, with Tilcon?
Yes, still am.
Okay. Is there, who would I go to? Would I go to you? I'm gonna speak to you now, but would I go to property maintenance? Tilcon has the watering trucks. There's a bad dust problem there, you know that. They're not there all the time. The trucks are there 6 days a week, coming in and out from 6 in the morning until quitting time. But Tilcon's watering trucks aren't there every single day.
I can reach out to Josh over at Tilcon
And
and
could
find
you,
out.
yeah, could you work on that a little bit?
Yeah, we can even have another, we haven't had a meeting in a while, maybe we'll have another meeting with those residents.
You know, it's understandable in the winter, you're not gonna water a road below freezing, create an ice situation. But we've had a mild winter, and since spring, it's been a real dust bowl over.
I can reach out to them.
And on a rainy day, they're out watering.
I don't know the schedule.
You know, who's in charge of that? Who's keeping an eye on that?
They are, but we don't have any say on that. It's their machine. They
Well,
actually,
you
but I'll
need to-
speak to them.
I'm just saying to you, you need to have another meeting.
I will.
Okay, and you were talking about the increase in property tax?
Mhm.
So it's a slight increase, like you've had a slight increase. So when you talk about stabilization of the taxes, is it a stabilization of a slight increase that you're talking about?
No, what that means is stabilizations means if we didn't have that income coming in from redevelopment, it would be higher.
I didn't mention redevelopment.
Well, that's how we're stabilizing taxes.
Oh, that's the only way that we're stabilizing?
Right now, it's the main way, yes.
Oh, okay. So we're still having an increase, but the increase is stabilized.
No, well, you're putting words in my mouth. I just
No.
told you what I said.
I'm just-
The increase is due to cost out of our control, which we're
Correct.
going to have to pay. So to
Correct.
pay that, you either raise taxes or get funds from somewhere else. We've gotten funds, as the administrator said, from some areas. Redevelopment is starting to bring in a good number of funds now, so we're using that to offset the costs of that. So that raise could have been higher if we didn't have the offset costs.
So it's just the wording of tax stabilization I'm concerned about.
It's your wording, it's my wording.
No,
You're
it was-
confused, I'm fine with it.
It was your word, it was your use.
And I'm fine with it.
On Facebook, I've seen it.
And I'm fine with it, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Please step up.
Kevin McAuliffe, Lincoln Ave. I've been parking on my mother-in-law's lawn for 33 years, once a week. Yeah, that's not going to stop, okay? With all due respect, the conversation before brought up a curious point to me. How do we evaluate department heads in this town? If it's the police chief, who does the evaluation as to whether he's doing a good job? A non-law enforcement person, how can they do that? DPW head, I'd like a little bit of maybe an explanation about that. And last but not least, we do have people in town, mayor, whose job is to ride around and enforce the ordinances, police officers. We've been made aware of the situation. I don't see, why it's something that has to be looked into. We have the guys out there on the road. If there's a problem, if it's a 16,000-pound truck, it's overweight, they should be able to deal with it.
Right, but I don't think they're looking at trucks on the way. So let me ask you your questions. I agree with you, but now we're made aware, we'll send whoever we need to take care of it. And then the second question, department heads in general fall under the administration, and we do evaluations and all those things. When it comes to the police department, it's a little different, but because they're kind of in their own area a
I
little
agree.
bit. So, but they do get evaluated, definitely get evaluated. But our DPW, our administrator, all these people get evaluated on a yearly basis.
No, my concern was how does somebody that's non-law enforcement evaluate the job, the law enforcement side of his job? Now, is he staying within his budget? Did he handle personnel
Oh, we
issues
do that,
properly?
yes.
How is he doing the law enforcement side of his job? How is that evaluated by a non-law enforcement person? That's all I'm asking. Or the DPW superintendent, for that matter.
Yeah, so they will all sit down with the administrator, which they've done in the last year, go over their budgets. She'll say, look, we got to cut this, you can't get this, we can do that, police department included, and say, they have what we'll call a wish list. They come in with their wish list. Sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't.
I get all that, but again, I go back to his separating the budget and his personnel issues and all of that. How do we evaluate that department head as a law enforcement officer? Forgetting the budget and everything else, as doing his job as a law enforcement officer.
So you're asking how is he evaluated as a law enforcement officer? That's what you're
By
asking.
someone in this town, yes. The police officers are evaluated by him, no problem with that. The guys in the DPW are evaluated by the DPW superintendent. How is the police chief or the DPW superintendent, for that matter, evaluated for the job they're doing, excluding budget and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I get it. Okay, so
Sure.
that is evaluated by the administration, yes, as a department head.
Okay,
With
fair
all
enough.
customers.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public like to address? Seeing no one, can I have a motion to close the public session?
Motion.
Councilman Bennett?
Second.
Councilman Devine, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? Okay, motion to approve the following minutes, regular meeting minutes, April 12th, 2023.
Motion.
Councilman Bennett?
Second?
Councilwoman Kent, all in favor?
Aye.
Abstain.
Abstain? Got an abstention? Or it's present, I guess, right?
Present.
Present. Got that list?
Councilman Deline?
Yes. Yes. Authorizations and bills and claims?
Okay, resolution 23-112, resolution authorizing payments of bills in the amount of $5,467,951.16.
Okay, can I have a motion?
Motion. I'll make a motion.
Councilman Devine?
Second.
Was that Councilman Bennett? Roll call, please. Oh, no, roll call, I'm sorry. All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Consent agenda. Anybody need anything removed? Nope? Okay, let's.
Whereas the mayor and council of the Borough of Pompton Lakes has reviewed the consent agenda consisting of various proposed resolutions, whereas the mayor and council of the Borough of Pompton Lakes does not desire to remove resolutions for individual action from that agenda, now therefore be it resolved that the following resolutions on the consent agenda are hereby approved. Resolution 23-113 through 23-119.
Motion to approve the resolutions.
So moved.
Councilman Devine?
Second.
Councilman Bennett, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? Introduction of ordinances, first reading.
Final adoption will be May 10th. An ordinance 23-16, an ordinance amending supplementing Chapter 2 Administration, Article 7 Administrative Policies and Procedures, Section 71, Video Recording of Meetings of the Municipal Code of the Borough of Pompton Lakes to record and broadcast the meetings of all municipal council and Borough Planning Board, Borough Zoning Board of Adjustment, and the Pompton Lakes Redevelopment Agency.
Motion to approve ordinance number 2316 for introduction.
So moved.
So moved.
Councilman Devine, Council President Polidori, roll call, please.
Councilman Dewan.
Yes.
Councilwoman Kent.
Yes.
Councilwoman Polidori.
Yes.
Councilman Bennett.
Yes.
Second reading, ordinance and final adoption, ordinance 2314. This has been advertised and posted. An ordinance providing for various capital improvements for purposes to be undertaken in and by the Borough of Pompton Lakes in the County of Passaic and appropriating $86,600 therefore from monies in the Capital Improvement Fund of the Borough of Pompton Lakes.
Paula, if you just want to give a quick update on that?
Yeah, that is for the borough leases vehicles, and we're permitted to do so because these vehicles have a lifespan of 5 years or greater. They're SUVs and trucks. So this further helps, this is money that the borough has, so we don't have to budget for that in our current fund budget.
Okay.
So it's just another mechanism to keep taxes as low as they could be.
Okay, motion,
Basically taking the money out of the main budget and putting it in capital if we can, and we have the money to do so in the reserve.
okay, motion to open the meeting for public comment on ordinance 23-14.
Motion.
Councilman Bennett,
Second.
Councilwoman Kent, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? Anyone from the public would like to address just this ordinance? Seeing no one, motion to close the meeting for public comments on ordinance 23-14.
Motion.
Councilman Bennett? A second?
Second.
Councilman Devine, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion to approve ordinance 2314 for final adoption.
So moved.
Councilman Devine?
Second.
Councilman Bennett, roll call, please.
Councilman Dewan.
Yes.
Councilwoman Kent.
Yes.
Councilwoman Polidori.
Yes.
Councilman Bennett.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, let's start with an appointment. I'd like to appoint Erin Hunker-Mahler as Class B member of the Pompton Lakes Historical Commission to fill an unexpired term to December 31st, 2024. Okay, under my report, we'll start with, we had an open space meeting last week. We threw around some ideas. We did get an extra little grant of $70,000 for Joe Grill Complex. We are now pretty much up to capacity with the monies needed for that project, except engineering. So, Paula, we're still talking about when that's going to go out to engineering the Joe Grill?
Yeah, this project is for next year.
Right, so for definitely next year. Okay, so that was good news. We talked about some other projects we're looking to do in the community. I had a Zoom meeting with the county on the proposed county senior housing they're going to build over at the county garage. The engineers are starting to look at the project. It's still well out, probably 2 years maybe, before they'll actually get to building it. But you can see today, actually, I noticed them removing the salt out of the salt dome. So that salt dome will be coming down. We are negotiating with them right now to get a little more space for our recycling center. So when we drive into the recycling center, we might be able to make a complete U and then come out, which would make life a little easier over at the recycling center. So we're working with swapping some properties and some easements and things, and our attorney and everybody else is talking about that, but that progresses and moves forward. I attended a Board of Ed meeting with their security concerns. After talking to the superintendent tonight, I think they're very close to announcing a deal with some type of security at the school. I'll leave them to make the announcement. But I think it's something that I guess most towns are moving towards, and having either police officers or specials or hired ex-police officers to kind of be in the schools. But I think the meeting went well, and our police chief was there, and some other people, so I think you'll be hearing something about that in the near future. We had a couple finance meetings, we had a couple personnel meetings. We attended, we spent a lot of time with the budget, and again, I want to thank our members on the finance committee and our administrator for putting this budget together. It's hard to come in and do a budget as new administration. You know, everybody does things their own way. And then with on top of that, having the issues that every town is facing with these increased costs. You know, we all know Jersey is not a cheap place to live right now. And the costs of the health care and pensions, you know, we're going to have to address it at some point, because it's going to hurt everybody. It's going to hurt every taxpayer. It's going to hurt every resident in New Jersey unless they figure out something to make that better. And that is my report. Council President Polidori.
Thank you. First, I want to thank everyone involved with planning CTO Day and the students that came out to participate. They did a wonderful job. It's always nice to hear the ideas that they pitch to the council, and then to be able to share with them that some of the concepts that they bring forward are plans that we're already working on. So when we look at some of the things we're doing and we know our students are thinking the same thing, it makes me feel confident that a lot of the projects we identify are heading in the right direction. I think Councilwoman Kent and I have spoken a few times about the refillable water bottles. I want to thank Erin Chazot for the gift of the reusable water bottles that were left on the dais for us today. We do have them at both parks, so we encourage the students to, and all the residents to use refillable water bottles to reduce waste. I attended the open space meeting. Carlo Field is one of the projects that we had approved to work on some maintenance for last year. They are now putting a fundraiser together to help support the financial efforts of that project, so I encourage everyone to take a look and participate if they can. I'm very excited about what they've shared with me to date regarding some of the improvements that they want for the fields down there. It is a well-used field. We have a lot of folks from out of town that come to see it, so like all of our other fields, it's important that we maintain them. They are the face of our town, especially when we have so many residents from other areas coming in. Also with open space, on May 24th, the borough administrator has finalized a date with the county, who was responsible for helping fund in part the sculpture that we worked on at Lakeside Park, which was a combined effort of one of our residents that created the sculpture, along with students from the autistic program and the gifted and talented art program at Lakeside Middle School. They did the artwork and painted it. So on May 24th, those students, the artist and the folks from the county, along with open space and the mayor and council, and anyone actually, is invited to join us at, did we say 4 p.m., Paula?
Yes, 4 o'clock at the park.
4 o'clock at the park for refreshments and a dedication of a collaborative effort across multiple groups in town to create something very beautiful that will stand for quite some time in our park. So I thank everyone for their efforts on that. Additionally, with open space, I have gotten a tremendous amount of questions regarding the Willowfield project. We've asked the last 2 meetings in a row now for updated site plans and expenses to date. So if possible, Paula, if you can put some information together for me to share, that would be great. I was invited to speak at the St. Mary's Seniors meeting this month on philanthropy and giving back in your local community. It's a large group. It was a well-received presentation, so I'm grateful for everyone that came out. There's always ways to identify opportunities around town that anyone that's interested in getting more involved can certainly get more involved in. Today, I completed the last of a series of financial literacy readings at the library for grades 4, 5, and 6. April is Financial Literacy Month. We read 2 different books every Wednesday from 4 to 5 in our library. I had a group of regulars that came every week to listen and share. They actually read to me sometimes, and they were very interested. I got some feedback from the parents that they were going home and sharing some of what we discussed and asking questions. So I was happy that they came out to learn that information with me. There were 6 books. I have donated them all to the library. So parents of children that were unable to attend, if you are interested in the material, you can go at your leisure and check the books out. They will be there for your use. I attended the redevelopment meeting. Interesting project that was proposed. Actually, the building was quite lovely, so I'm looking forward to seeing it come back again for another review. The bid reached out. They have approved moving forward with the Signs for Heroes project. So I'm working with them to get this finalized. We're ironing out the details of how it's going to be presented to the public by way of cost, what we're going to do as far as offering the opportunity to fill out an application for one. They are going to take care of hanging all of the brackets that will be able to be used for other signs for other holidays throughout the year. So our target is hopefully for 4th of July for this year. The goal originally when we talked about this was to have them displayed from Memorial Day to Labor Day. I don't think that for this year that will be possible. If we can do 4th of July to Labor Day, that would be great. But we are moving forward with that. So more to come and an application to be shared soon. And lastly, let's see. Friday is Arbor Day, as we open the meeting with every year, something I get very excited about. I, along with our Shade Tree Commissioner, Randy Hinton, take trees from NJ Forestry, which are donated to the borough for free for each 3rd grade student. This year, Councilwoman Kent will be joining us. We start the morning off at Lenox. We present each child with a tree. We do a brief history of Arbor Day. Randy shares with the children how they have to plant and care for their trees, and Councilwoman Kent will encourage them all to name their tree, which is the most fun part. After Lenox, we go over to Lincoln, and every child will go home on Friday with a tree to plant in their yard. I started doing this when my son was in 3rd grade. He is a freshman in high school now, and every year I still get pictures from parents who over the years whose children have brought a tree home that is still growing in their yard. So it makes me happy when I continue to get those pictures. And that is my report.
Okay, thank you. I just forgot to mention my meetings last night, and I'm sure Councilman Delino mentioned the zoning board, and Councilman Bennett will mention historic, but I also attended the rec meeting, and besides all the other programs they're running, summer camp is starting up again. They're hiring counselors right now. They're interviewing for people. If you have any 15 to 17-year-olds that are interested in working in summer camp, they should reach out to the borough here or Karen Murphy and get their name on the list, because they're doing interviews. They did one on Monday night. They're doing some more on next Monday. And if you have kids interested in camp, now's the time to sign up for summer camp. I will tell you, we're going to try our hardest to not take late signups for summer camp this year. So either you get in on time or you don't get in. So I know some people wait to that very last moment to try to get their kids in. Let's try to get those kids in early so we can have a better count of what we need. Councilman Deline.
Thank you, Mayor. Last Monday, I attended the Municipal Utilities Authority meeting. Somehow in March, there were 3 hydrants struck that needed to be replaced. There were 9 water and sewer markouts conducted. As mentioned over a number, through our Civic Ready system, spring hydrant flushing has begun. And this is the message that went out to the public today. This is an important message from the Pompton Lakes MUA. Fire hydrant flushing is ongoing during the overnight hours until May 12th. Water pressure may be low during this time. If water is discolored, run your cold water only until it is clear. Al, thank you for sending that out. If you did not get that message by email, text, or voicemail, you can go to the borough's website, pomptonlakes-nj.gov. On the left-hand side, there is an exclamation point in a triangle saying sign up for emergency notifications. That is how you would get notified for something like this, storms and other emergencies that may occur in the borough. So if you haven't done so already, I strongly encourage you to do so. And in addition, the MUA also discussed, a couple of the commissioners attended a webinar on the iBank. This is known as iBank is Infrastructure Bank. And this is how some municipalities are getting low interest loans to do water and sewer project improvements. Just so the public is aware, there is a state law that requires the borough through the MUA to replace X feet of water main per year for the next 100 years, so it's basically 1% a year. One way to do it is through the iBank, low interest loan, principal forgiveness of any project that goes done. So the MUA is starting to look into that program a lot more. Following that, I attended the Library Board of Trustees. I was late because I was at the MUA meeting. However, one thing of note that we had previously reported on was there was a number of residents that had requested to hold a Pride event in June at the library grounds. The Library Board of Trustees did find that subject to the provision of insurance, the insurance requirement by this group, the Pride event was approved and would be held on the library lawn on Saturday, June 24th. Last week, attended the ordinance committee. We discussed the transparency ordinance, which was introduced today, and trash collection, changes to the trash collection ordinance. The result of that second discussion was really taking a closer look at enforcement mechanisms, what needed to be done, how communication could be possible before we went into the possible action of changing the ordinance to address some of the issues that are ongoing. And then, as the mayor mentioned, last night, I attended the Board of Adjustment. There was an application for a home expansion. This would require a side and rear yard setback variance. The board did have reservations on the proximity of the expansion to the side yard. That was basically, they were going to be expanding their garage from a one-car garage to a two-car garage and entering into that side yard setback. And the applicant did agree to carry it to the next month's meeting and meet with their architect in the interim to see what changes could be made to address the board's concerns. Finally, wanted to give my best wishes to Councilman Bay and wish him a speedy recovery. My best wishes to Councilman Cruz's father. And then again, as several members of the council mentioned, and if you heard earlier, the CTO Day event is phenomenal. It's a great way to see, all of us kind of see the borough through the lens of how we experience it every single day. But I can't necessarily see it through the lens of a high school student, somebody that's, grown up in town, gone to school, they walk to school, they drive to school, they've been dropped off to school. So it's always really interesting to see from their perspective what they think can be approved. And as the mayor had mentioned, some of these projects that they're talking about that do stand out is things that we've been talking about for a number of years or moving forward in implementing. So again, it's a really great exchange of ideas from our high school students. So, I would thank Liz and everybody who made that happen for this year again, and look forward to future years. And that concludes my report, Mayor.
So just a question, they approved the Pride and someone was going to get insurance, is that what you said?
Yeah, so one of the there's basically 5 or 6 requirements to request an event or something to be held at the library, and this is rules and regulations that are published on the library's website. And one of them is a certificate of insurance holding the library harmless for anything that might occur. So I think that more than anything, I think that's going to be it's not that it's approved under the idea that'll be provided, yes. But the group that did apply for that event is aware of that requirement, so.
And are they going to bring it to the library, and then the library's going to give it to our administrator?
I'm not sure. I know that they have provided to the library. I'm not sure what the requirements are
It has to go to
between the
our
library and the administrator.
So we'll just have to check with the library that we received that, yeah.
Okay.
Great, thank you. Councilwoman Kent.
Thank you, Mayor. I attended the budget meeting with our mayor and our budget, our finance committee, and with the auditor. And I do support the budget that was put forth tonight. And there was a lot of work involved in that. And I think nobody likes to have an increase, but I think the increase is very fair considering the $700,000 that is basically enforced upon the town on those pensions and health care requirements. So I think it came out really well. So I want to thank you, Paula, for putting that together. Attended a EPC, an environmental protection workshop. We met with the group and just to, again, review over the townwide cleanup, May 7th. And I was informed that Channel 12 and another TV station was supposed to come out to the event to see really, what this is all about. So I'm looking forward to that day. I also attended the CTO meeting with the high school students, and I gave my counterpart on, how to develop a multi-use athletic complex in the northern section of Pompton Lakes. And I, given him all the buzzwords, and he did a really good job. So thank you, Mr. Hernandez. I met with the Pompton Day. Pompton Day had a meeting with the Pompton Day committee, the food vendors, the food permits, the food trucks, and the WWF wrestlers are going to be some of the key attractions, along with the vendors with their selling of goods and merchandise. And we're still looking for anybody else who wants to be involved in Pompton Day. The room is full of people that are trying to set this up. Thank you, Mike Shekatana and Ryan back there, doing a great job with Director Murphy. And looking forward to Pompton Day. I also did attend the Recreation Commission meeting. As the mayor said, the camp counselors are being hired now. That's a nice program. I also attended the Pompton Lakes Little League Parade, and I cheated, I have to be honest. I did not walk the whole parade. I just kind of scooted in at the end. So a little bit of a cheater, but that's okay. And they were the kids were so excited to play ball, and Councilman Bennett threw the ball out on the first. I know, but I was very proud of you. They caught it, so that was very good. And that was very nice. And there was a lot of kids involved. I think over 500 is in the program, over 500 now. So wonderful, wonderful program. I am asking our group to come up with a resolution for the use of the docks and the boat launch. I live by the lake and I see a lot of boats out there, and I'm not sure who's using the launch. I'm under the understanding that there are private parties that want to start using our parks for weddings and parties. And, it's really, we're really trying to maintain the parks. And it's really hard for me to watch other communities, other people coming in that don't pay the taxes that we do, and then they don't, there's no fee. And we have to have an ordinance that has a fee. We have to have that. And we talked about that last year, and I know we talked about an initial one, but it wasn't finalized, and we really have to
So
finalize it.
what we're going to need to do with that, it has to get to the ordinance committee, and I know our attorney is working on it, but he's looking for it.
It's been submitted.
Yeah, we have input from everybody. Everybody put their input in
Okay.
on what they want before it goes to the ordinance committee.
Okay. Yeah, because the boats are out there now, and we're missing an opportunity, so.
All right, so if we think we're finalized with it, and the attorney's good with it, and Paula's good with it, and we're all good with it, then it will go to the ordinance committee if everybody's ready. So I just
seen
want
it?
There's got some changes that need to be made.
Yeah, I haven't seen it.
Communicate with Paula. We have to, it's just the fee structure needed to be changed a little bit, because I think there was a little bit of, there was a concern among the initial discussion about how the fees based on resident versus non-resident, the size of the groups, things like that just need to be addressed. And
Well, we'll do that in ordinance.
Yeah, we're doing the ordinance committee, and then
Okay.
we'll send it out.
Okay, so we are working on that.
Oh, okay, because this is the season.
Yep.
Okay. I want to thank Woodlawn Refillable Company. Aaron Shazant came to a council meeting a couple meetings ago and suggested that we use water bottles. She was very generous and provided the Borough Council with these water bottles. They're beautiful, and I want to thank her very much. And she even had a recycled piece of cardboard that she made as a tag, which I think is brilliant. So I want to thank her very much, and I will use it. I also want to thank many people who have offered me kind condolences on the loss of my father-in-law, and Lloyd and I do appreciate it. I had so many different people, and that's a nice way to use the social media to let people know that you're in their thoughts. So there's good out there too. It's not all bad. And the other thing that just came up, Mayor, and I'm going to ask, on the county garage meetings, I am the DPW liaison, and I am not involved or
Yeah,
have
this
not
is a
been
county
involved.
meeting. It's their meeting, it's not our meeting.
But we're talking about our recycling center?
They are. This is their conversation.
Okay, because anything that has to do with the recycling center or the, the roads, since I'm liaison, I would like to
I can ask them.
I would like to be involved,
Yeah, I can ask them.
so that I know, and then I can bring it to your attention, your attention and to our other
Okay.
council people. I appreciate that. Thank you. Respectfully, thank you. And that is my report.
So I did have a couple residents ask me on the river cleanup, is there a rain date on that or not?
No.
No rain date, so if it's raining, we're still on.
If it's raining, unless it's thunder and lightning.
We're still on, okay. Okay. Councilman Venon, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mayor. I would also echo everybody's comments about CTO Day. Congratulations and a nice job. We brought up a couple things, as many mentioned, that are already in flight, including Hirschfield Park. The trails are already blazed over in Hirschfield Park. We did that back in 2018. And they talked about volunteer opportunities, and I've mentioned this a couple times. The next trails maintenance is May 21st. We meet back at Willowfield, and we disperse from there to various locations along the trails. The PLRL parade, it was a quick 45-minute walk from the high school to Joe Grill. And for the first time in many years, the kids actually, when we called them back, not to run ahead, they actually came back. Had to do that a few times until kind of things got under control. And I thank them for the opportunity to throw out the opening pitch, first pitch. Historic Commission last night, we had the homeowner for the Outlook property, which is at the end of Bartoff. It's a beautiful Victorian home, but it was in disrepair. He is a big fan of the Victorian style, so he came to the Historic Commission to present his plans and to ensure that he's not intending on making any changes that will affect the historic look of the property. Also, we discussed the mural that's inside of Wells Fargo Bank. There was some miscommunication, and there was folks thought that it was going to be painted over, but that was Chairwoman Laura Jennings spoke with their corporate headquarters, and they cleared it all up, and they actually have a mural committee, and so it's something they definitely want to keep. The last thing I want to bring up is we are working on making this municipality a film-ready community. Film-ready community status will, so filming in New Jersey has become a huge business and brings in, obviously, money. Talk about tax stabilization. About $650 million were spent in 2022 in New Jersey on filming, the film industry. A couple shows that come to mind. Have you seen Severance on Apple TV Plus? Great show. It was filmed down in Howell. A bunch of movies was just filmed in Patterson. So to become film ready, there's 5 steps. The first step is attending the workshop, which I attended back on April 14th. Last Friday, Liz and our our borough clerk and our borough administrator attended a Zoom call with the Film Commission, New Jersey Film Commission, and the next steps are in progress, which includes uploading locations to a global database, really. So if someone wants to film a historic church near a historic theater, and they type it in to a search, it's called Real Scout, and currently we don't have any presence on that website. They search that up. Pompton Lakes is one of the many municipalities that come up, and once we receive film ready status, Pompton Lakes we can use their logo, they will promote us on their website as well. And as soon as we reach that status, we will join 4 other municipalities currently in New Jersey, all in Somerset County currently: Franklin, Hillsborough, South Bound Brook, and Watchung, I believe, are currently film ready in New Jersey. So I expect to be film ready sometime this summer, and there'll be another announcement when that happens. And that is my report, Mayor.
Thank you.
And one more thing, Mayor. So in addition to all the things we do, we list all the resources. So hardware stores get business, restaurants will get business because you have to feed the film crews and whatnot, and surrounding communities as well. So it's a big opportunity. And then there's a huge opportunity for film tourism, which is a new term to me. where folks will, if you're a big fan of, for example, Pulp Fiction, you go to the diner where they did a lot of the filming for that movie. So there's residual benefits once any films or any movies, TV shows are filmed here. That's my report, Mayor. Thank you.
Your magic must be working, because I forgot to mention in my report, I got contacted by a scout for a movie, someone making a movie on Aaron Hernandez, the football player, who had some situations, and they want to film a whole week's worth of filming here in Pompton Lakes at Willow Field. We're still in negotiation on how that's going to go, but, they will pay us a pretty penny to use the space. And, what I said, how did you find Pompton Lakes? And it was just what you said. They did some research, saw that some movies have been filmed here. They're looking for an area that looks wet. Well, we all know Willow Field's a little wet. And it had a background of Florida. That's where he's from. And they said we were really interested in the use of it. So hopefully this pans out. He's sent us an email, which I forwarded to our administration, and they're supposed to follow up. So maybe we'll get some filming out of it and some money for use of it, so that's a great thing. Professional reports, attorneys.
No report.
All right, so just so we all are on the same page, we're working on the vote ordinance, or it's written, or do we still have more work to do?
It was drafted and it was submitted to the committee for comment and review, and I'm waiting for it to come back.
So when you say committee, it didn't go to ordinance, no?
It did went to.
Oh, it did?
Yeah, we
Okay.
discussed it already.
Okay. Professional report.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to, the mayor had announced a $70,000 grant award to the local recreation improvement grant fund. Those monies were sought after to support the developments of Willowfield project. The borough also received notification that it's awarded from the New Jersey Department of Transportation, $231,170 for Dawes Highway and Maple Avenue Road. We also received a $15,000 stormwater grant. What is happening in the state of New Jersey is more requirements, stormwater requirements that's going to cost more money. I have a list of them here. We have to add multiple ordinances. We're required to do storm drain installation. We're required to do excess de-icing material management, roadside vegetative waste management, roadside erosion control, conveyance system inspection and cleaning, stormwater infrastructure inspection, stormwater infrastructure maintenance, bulk liquid storage, some of these cold patch, asphalt, scrap tires, outdoor refuse containers and dumpsters. So these are all new regulations that we are required to comply with, and the list goes on.
And who's going to do that, DPW?
So, no, we're going to require some professionals. This borough has in the past procured the services of stormwater compliance solutions to help it. We're a tier A municipality. So some of the things we're required to do is implement a tree removal replacement ordinance. I'm talking about salt sheds. We are responsible for putting together a salt shed.
Well, luckily we're doing that for the county.
Right, so that's one thing. But I'm just, it's just interesting, that $15,000 probably will not cover the cost of all of our compliance requirements. So it's just something else that we're going to be required to do. Now, of course, it's not a matter of, yes, of course, we want to manage our stormwater, but sometimes management and excess management might be debatable. But in any event, we're required by the state of New Jersey to implement these new requirements, and I'll be working, because some of this has to be done by an engineer. Our DPW superintendent cannot complete some of these reports that are required. It's pretty intensive, outfall maps and GIS mapping and that kind of a thing, so he can't do that. I just want to say the traffic light, I've been informed by JCP&L that the traffic light on Beach and Riverdale has been replaced with a new bulb. So if that's not the case, let me know, because I've been on them. And yes, Mayor, to that extent, we did discuss changes to the boat launch and park ordinance.
Okay.
So I had asked Councilman Deline to send me over that, and I will draft a final so that can be looked again by the ordinance committee, input, and then we will, finalize that, send that over to our attorney. Council President Polidori, I just have to say, my son's tree, I believe Arbor Day tree, is now, I think, about 14 feet in my backyard.
I love hearing that.
So we planted it, and it is growing very nicely.
Thank you.
They work. So plant your seedling, because they grow and they're beautiful trees. And now it blocks my neighbor. Hopefully he's not listening.
We'll put that out there as a benefit to planting it.
And that is my report, Mayor, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Motion to open the meeting for public comments.
So moved.
Council President Polidori. Second. Councilman Devine, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? Anyone from the public like to address? Please step up.
Got a trip. Jeff Kynan, 1088 Ringwood Ave, Pompton Lakes. You mentioned the salt shed and the salt dome. I was under the impression we were gonna keep that in town. That changed?
No, we're gonna keep it, but they're gonna reduce the size of it or change the shape of it or move it somewhere.
Yeah.
They don't need that big dome, so they're still discussing it, they haven't planned it, but it might actually be like a square building instead of a tall dome, so. it
That's
doesn't
where we
stick
get
out.
our salt from.
Well, initially, we do store our salt there, but that's the county's spot.
Yeah.
And I had to work out a deal with them to keep it because they were gonna move it to West Milford and then we would have no place to keep our salt. And then we'd have to figure it out. So they were
Yeah.
nice enough to say, they'll let us keep our salt there as we move forward.
All right, now, getting to the trees, is great. I love that tree business, handing out the trees to the kids. A couple of years ago at the night out over here,
Yeah,
school,
I remember, yeah.
Aunt Tassinelli was handing out red buds. I guess it was from the Shade Tree Commission. And that's great, and the deer love that too. It's really struggling, it's about this big, because the deer keep eating the buds and the leaves off it. Getting to that topic, I had a tick bite that I picked. I was in the back. I didn't do any gardening, but I happened to be in the backyard and I did a few things spur of the moment and wound up getting a deer tick on my arm. So there's maybe another bid to get the, I know, falling on deaf ears, but get the deer herd culled.
You know, when I met with Congressman Pasquale, I was with a bunch of mayors from the county, and I brought it up. I did bring it up. I said, guys, I'm sure you're all getting complaints, and they said, we're all getting complaints of the deer overcrowding. I said, it would be an idea if the county kind of led a charge if they wanted to do that, because the county was there also. They didn't seem to jump on the bandwagon, but I at least threw it out there.
Well, I think part of the problem is they're afraid of losing an election is what it is, because it's very controversial, no doubt about it.
And look, in my own house, I switched to plastic plants outside my house now because they eat everything. So I'm just putting plastic in.
Are they recyclable?
They'll probably eat that too, I don't know.
No, come on. Getting back to that, you mentioned about films in town. When they did the In and Out, I think it was a film a few years ago. Tom Selleck and a few celebrities were here, and we didn't get any acknowledgement at the film. And we asked them why, and it's because we didn't ask for it.
Oh boy, what asking?
So ask for it, please.
Oh, thank you, good point.
I don't know if it's going to reduce the money that they give us, but
No, we'll get it.
we didn't get
Thank you.
acknowledged in that.
I didn't know that, it's the first I've heard that, so that's
Yeah.
good to know.
Yeah, if you watch that film, you'll see that we weren't even mentioned.
Wow, did not know that.
And it's because we didn't ask to be
Okay,
mentioned.
good to know.
That was the answer we were given.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else from the public like to address? Please step up.
Randy Hitton, 443 Montclair Avenue. Our administrator's report, she mentioned a few things that the state is requiring now, and talking about needing to hire professionals to do some of the work, say, that DPW superintendent can't do. I attended the last few flood advisory board meetings, and I had asked them, How come we never had a professional hydrologist monitoring the work that we've been doing in the rivers? We've been losing a lot of trees. DMK has been taking them out, but it seems like the rivers are getting wider, and more trees are falling in. And a professional hydrologist, I mean, there's a lot of areas where we need bank stabilization, because especially down at Hirschfield Park, like we talked about, the wall fell into the river. And of course, Flood Advisory Board is exactly that. It's an advisory board to the council. So they have a meeting tomorrow. I'll bring up the question again, but now I'm talking directly to the council. Is there any reason why in the previous years we haven't had a professional hydrologist?
It's never been brought to our attention by any board or any engineer that we've used that we need to do this, and that's why we haven't done it.
Oh, well, I'm Mr. Hinton, and I'm bringing it to your attention.
Are you a professional?
That, my observation from Shade Tree,
Okay, well-
and seeing trees falling into the river, and why they're falling into the river, is because of some of these problems.
And I thank you for bringing that, but we will rely on our professionals, our engineers, to say, hey, look, this is something we should do.
Correct, but I mean, your engineers aren't walking the rivers, your engineers
They're
aren't
supposed to.
observing trees.
They're supposed to. If that's what we're telling them to look at, that's what they're supposed to do.
Is that true, Ms. Cosarelli? Yeah. That our engineers are gonna be monitoring the trees?
I said if we're asking them to monitor, saying it's something we should bring in, they're gonna go look at the banks and say, hey, maybe you should do this, or maybe you shouldn't do that.
Is there no reason why a professional hydrologist hasn't been working right along with Flood Advisory or
Flood Advisory
DMK?
Board has never recommended it to us. We had no engineers that recommended it to us, and there's a cost involved, I'm sure.
Of course, there's a cost involved all the time.
So go
But-
back to your stabilization taxes, then your taxes are gonna go up.
That's your term, tax stabilization. It's
Well,
not-
that's what's
it's on
gonna
your
happen.
Facebook
I'm just
post
saying,
here.
we don't have any professionals right now that have recommended
But
us.
it could be something that should be looked into.
I don't know that, I can't answer that.
You're a pretty smart guy.
I would never
you should
make a
understand.
call, I would never make a call on hydrolysis. and
Also, that
non-hydrolysis.
you're talking about the trees being planted, just from the shade tree, we're doing removals, we're removing 29 trees this week. We pruned 24 2 weeks ago, and we're gonna plant another 20 in mid-May. So Shade Tree Commission is trying to do its part in bringing back more trees to the town, so.
That's good, thank you.
And 11 of those trees we're removing were ash trees killed by the emerald ash borer. That is an insect coming through our area. So I know that you would know that. Councilman DeLine, a lot of times with New Jersey, you do a lot of new research for Shade Tree Commission, or I forget the name of it now.
Oh, Glen Ridge?
No, not the town, for the state. Geez, I forgot the name of it. But a lot of times you ask for the amount of trees that we've removed and statistics for,
Oh, that was,
Sustainable New Jersey?
that was for Sustainable Jersey.
right, Sustainable Jersey, so. All right, but recommendation, hydrologist.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else from the public like to address?
Seeing none.
Seeing no one, can I have a motion to close the public session?
So
So
moved.
moved.
Councilman DeLine, Council President Polidori, all in favor?
Aye.
Against, privilege of the floor, anybody opposed to the floor?
Mayor, may I just address Mr. Hinton's comments on the Flood Advisory Board? They do supply us an advisory a report every year, primarily because the trees have already fallen. And so what they've been trying to do is through the use of drones and we did also trudge through the rivers and the parks and so on, try to figure out where all the trees were. I mean, that's a humongous project, just for the volunteers.
Sure.
So a lot of that was because the first thing we had to do was get rid of the trees, remove them from the rivers so that they didn't block the flows. So for years, that's what we were doing, and they did a fabulous job. And we do give you, or they give you a report every
Yes,
year.
they do.
Sure. So, but that's why, the part of the hydrologist, we never really had that opportunity because we were always looking at down trees and how to find, how to keep them from blocking, flowing water when and if we had flood areas. So we're at a different point, I think, now. And, I will bring that up.
Yeah, bring it up with them and
Yeah,
see what they
and,
say.
yeah, and let's see what what the recommendation would be. But that's why we never really went that way because it was really, we were, it's triage. First you have to removed the trees. It was a triage thing. And since they really don't have any funds. Yeah, where did, yeah, and because we haven't flooded in 10 years, thank God. So, but that's what, I just wanted to answer that
Okay.
question.
Anybody else?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, motion adjourned.
So
Oh, I'm sorry. We need to go into a closed session. I'm sorry, I forgot
Oh,
all
yes,
about
I'm
that.
sorry.
I forgot to.
Part of my report,
Do we
closed
still need
session,
it?
block 7700, lot 1.
Correct, but we're not gonna come out and take official action, so you
No.
could notice, to the public that we won't be.
Yes, we won't be coming back out of open closed session to discuss what we were doing. So we do have to go to closed session, so I thank everybody for coming, and we'll have to ask you to leave politely.
Okay, we're recording.
All right, in closed session, we discussed negotiation of the project. Motion to adjourn. Motion. Councilman Bennett, Councilman Lloyd, all in favor?
Aye.
You guys will go?